Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and lifestyle coach. And man, we have a special guest for you today. Halfway around the world, he's been living a dream. And I want to kind of share Craig's journey with you so you can understand what's possible. So, Craig, for the people who don't know you, would you tell us who you are, what you do, and who you serve? And then we'll get into your story.
Thank you, Pete. Lovely to see you. Lovely to be here. I'm Craig Alexander Rattray. I work with owner-managed businesses to make their life easier, to help them create better freedom, and to let them understand the information they need to make better decisions. Most business owners don't really know how to do that, so I try and make their life easier through my Know Your Numbers groups, through the Freedom Circle groups, and also I still do 2 or 3 fractional CFO roles at the moment. I have, over the last few years, I have reduced that significantly, as I'm sure we'll go into when we talk about my freedom.
Yeah, that is so, I love what you just shared. And, you know, I know from a cash flow perspective, we always have to make sure we have cash flow or we don't have a business.
Exactly.
When you're working with an owner, and what is the biggest problem you see when they're struggling in that area, and that's something that's so important to the life of their business?
I think just to take a step back before, I think one of the biggest issues you have with business owners is that most business owners are very good at providing a particular product, service, trade, because they know that. Operationally, they're fantastic. You know, they're very, very good. They've learned the trade and they're great at delivering that. But they don't know how to run a business, and no one's ever taught them how to run a business. So that in itself creates a lot of stress, and there's this perception that people should automatically know how to run a business. So what tends to happen, and what's happened over the years, is that people come to me when they're stressed, and typically they're stressed because of cash flow. Because it's the old classic, you can show on your accounts that you made a profit, but you've got no cash. I know, and it really is as simple as that. And I've got a copy of the first book, and I did first with our mutual friend Jeff. Mastering Cash Flow for Business Owners. I want every business owner in the world to have a copy of that on their desk, because it talks about never have a sleepless night again. Because I defy any business owner to tell me that they have never had a sleepless night about cash. Right? Because I think every business owner has had that at some point. Many business owners still be having that on a regular basis. And it's actually one of the easiest things that you can fix if you get these things sorted out properly, in terms of what I teach, particularly on the Know Your Numbers side, and what I do with my one-to-one clients. And it makes such a difference. It just takes away the stress, and the owner can focus on doing what they're good at. Because at the end of the day, people, none of us can do everything. You know, there's very few one-man teams have created very successful businesses. And it's understanding that, the information, the cash, and surrounding yourself with the right people.
You know, it's kind of like a little bit like when we're raising kids. There's not like our children, we don't get a playbook on how we can raise good kids. We have to, one, be in a good community where we can get that feedback, seek mentors, seek people that have done it, that can share their journey. What do you think? I know a little bit of your journey, but I was telling you before we came on, I don't spend much time on social media, but the time I do when I'm on LinkedIn, I check you out, because you're living a life of freedom. And when we get in business, that's kind of what we want. We want that location. We want that time. We want that to be able to travel. So take us back to when you moved from Scotland. What were you thinking? Like, I'm going to live in a place that is absolutely beautiful. How did you, one, come across that, and then actually do it?
This has been a work in progress for a number of years. My wife, Maria, is Greek, hence being in Greece. Now, we've always said, since we met, been together for 10 years now, and since we met, the plan was take Maria back to her home country. So it's always been the plan, but I was in a situation when we met And I've done a video on this where I record a video every Friday called Freedom Friday, and I teach people, just give them some ideas and tips and things how to create freedom. So I shared a story in one of the sort of second or third ones I did, where I spoke about being £750,000 in debt 5 years ago. And something like that either breaks you or it focuses your mind. And I did what you're taught to do, it's a bit like eating an elephant, a chunk at a time, and have a plan. So I had to work my way through that. And probably about 5 years ago, we started speaking about it a bit more seriously. We decided that we didn't want to live in the north of Greece, where Maria was from, Thessaloniki. It's a bit too cold in the winter. We didn't want to live in Athens, again, a bit too cold in the winter. But we'd visited Crete a number of times. So we liked the island. It's got everything. We've got a sea view in front. We've got the mountains at the side. It's just a fantastic location. So really what I'd been working towards over the last 3 or 4 years was eradicating the debt and then building up the money we needed. I needed a couple of shares in a couple of businesses that subsequently sold as well to give us the life of freedom. And it wasn't just being here in the sunshine, because I love the sun, I don't like the cold. Glasgow in winter, Glasgow any time from end of September through to March was pretty miserable. I was also very fed up with life in Glasgow because of so much division. There's always been religious division in Glasgow in particular, Catholics, Protestants. We then created the political division where it was the SNP, do we want to be part of the UK or not? And all of these things are sort of 50-50, so everyone's fighting. And we then had the racism and just people being angry all the time. And I got to the stage where I didn't really want to go out, genuinely. And I spent 6 weeks in Forteventura last year between towards the end of November into December, just to see if I could work remotely. And the plan always was to work a lot less. At one stage a few years ago, I was working with about 15 different clients, which was probably about 8 too many. And what I've done, or what I did over the last few years, was I created Know Your Numbers to start doing some group work. I reduced my number of one-to-one clients. I was quite fortunate. I sold a couple of businesses. I was in the right place at the right time, a few things. And having visited here, I decided sort of on the 26th of December 2025, I came downstairs and said to Maria, we're selling the house and moving to Crete. And she just looked at me like, just like that. And I said, no, we've been talking about it for many years. We're doing it. I said, I've had enough, because I just come back from Forteventura 2 days before.
Yeah.
And we quick chat. I sent an email to the estate agent. House was on the market within a few weeks. We accepted an offer on the third day, which was within the range I was happy with. We flew over here to Crete. Viewed a couple of properties. I love this place. The place we're in, we've got 4,500 square meters in the middle of nowhere. Literally nothing around us. There's a couple of houses a bit further away. Our nearest neighbours are sheep, and we're 1 kilometre off the village road, and another kilometre. The village has 157 people in it. The other direction, there's sort of 500 people in the village, and we're 10 minutes down to a bigger village in the sea. So we have all of these things. We're 30 minutes from the nearest airport in Hanya, and life is just wonderful. The weather's completely different. Everyone's at peace. Nothing's a problem. The fact that I'm speaking a wee bit of Greek and we're interacting helps as well. And that's really where my idea for the Freedom Circle came from, because I want to help, like what you're doing with your clients. I want to show business owners you can have that freedom, because, like you say, most business owners set up because they want freedom. They want to work when they want, with who they want, doing what they want. And what tends to happen is that plan within a few months goes, because they find they're working twice as much. They don't really have the money to do things. Things aren't quite right, and it just creates a lot more stress. So you end up not having freedom, and instead you get a lot of stress, you get cash pressures, you get time pressures, you get all of these things. So I'm trying to show people, like, there's different ways of doing this, and it's like the things you teach as well. Start focusing on the right things, do a bit at a time. And I'm hoping that answers your question, because it was a wee bit rambling.
Yeah, I love that, you shared that thought process. And I had a conversation with a gentleman. He had an electrical business, a number of trucks, and he was working in the area, and he was networking locally. And I said, in our clarity sessions, I want you to think globally.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I can't run my trucks all over the world. I said, no, but your experience in the last 5 years of building an electrical business is valuable to others that want to go on that journey and want to build a business. So it doesn't matter where you live. It matters that we are globally, and like you're consulting people all over the world. You can do it from wherever. So when you're building a business, I know demand is critical. You got to create demand leads. How do you create demand in Greece so people can get a better idea of that location freedom? Because you can work from anywhere in the world.
I've changed now, Pete. You know from when we first met. I was working 70, 80 plus hours most weeks, every week, and partly because I had to, given where I was financially, but also because I love doing what I'm doing. I now don't do any client meetings Mondays or Fridays. I have 3 half-hour meetings on a Tuesday morning. I have 1 half-hour meeting on a Thursday morning, and I do Know Your Numbers. I do the Freedom Circle for 1 hour on a Wednesday morning, and I do Know Your Numbers for 1 hour on a Thursday morning. That's my week. That's all I'm doing now. I'll do a couple of. I'll maybe do another 3 or 4 hours on some other reviewing information, the forecast, cash flows, that sort of thing. That's it. So I'm not looking to build a business here now. I'm in a sort of a care and maintenance. And my big focus is now on getting people into Know Your Numbers and the Freedom Circle, and launching another couple of those groups as well. Because we know, I know the difference it makes. The Freedom Circle, for example, we launched the first group in September with 10 business owners. And in all honesty, the transformation in these people in that period of time is staggering. We had the first session, and there was a bit of an argument who could work the most hours, and I let them all have their bit. They're doing a bit of intro, and I let them do it. I said, look, you've got this completely the wrong way. This is a competition to see who can work the least number of hours. Okay, and at the moment, I'm working less than 10. Okay, so until any of you can tell me you're working less hours than me, you ain't winning. Okay, the focus is not more, it's about working smarter. It's about looking at, one of the first things we do is we look at what do you do all day, every day? Write down what you're doing. Because I guarantee automatically we'll get rid of 20% of that. And we'll probably get rid of another 20% of that. And we'll keep pushing down, because what you should be doing as a business owner is you should be up here. You should be focusing on the £10,000 an hour, $10,000 an hour pieces of work. And the bits down here that are £10 an hour, $10 an hour, you either eradicate it or you get someone in to do it. Now, you might not necessarily have the money to do that, first of all, but if you then start, if you know your numbers, you know where you are, where you've been, where you're going, and you get the right funding into place in your business, then you can build that team. You can build, I like to think of 3 teams. I like to think of the strategic team up at the high level, so sitting along both sides. Whether it's a non-exec advisor, part-time advisor, whatever you want to call that, that's helping you with the big picture. We're here, we want to go here in 3 years or 5 years. I want to have the management team, so the team that runs the business, and then we want an operational team, so the team that runs the business on a day-to-day basis. And then as a business owner, you can be up here above it all, looking at what's happening, managing it from a strategic level. And what that does is it frees your time to do the important things, the £10,000, $10,000. But it also means you have a much more valuable business, because you can then sell that business and you don't need to hide into it for the next 3 years or 5 years, because the business runs without you. So there are so many simple things you can put in place. And if you've done the right financial side of things as well, where you've got understand where you are, so you've got up-to-date management accounts and information, you understand where you've been in terms of your historic year-end information, and then more importantly, can understand where you're going, so your forecast. Because if you can then show where you are, where you've been, where you're going, you can engage with funders to say, here's where we've been, here's where we're going now, based on the assumptions. We need X to take us there. We want to raise, 100,000, £500,000, £1 million, 5 million, whatever that may be. Here's what we're going to do with it, and here's where it's going to take us. And that's the bit that a lot of business owners just don't understand. And when they get that and they start getting the information to make better decisions, you see the light bulb. I see these groups, it's great, I get 10 people on the screen, right? And I'll say something and you see the bang, you see the light bulb go off and the click,
Yeah.
they just get it, because most of these people are very, very clever. They just haven't been taught these things. So if you say, see if you do more of that every day, you do less of that and you do this, here's what happened. Find the things that you can monitor, you can manage, but you can use to influence your business. How do you know? I like to say, how do you know you've had a good day, a good week, or a good month? And rather than telling me, well, the phones are ringing, or all my staff are on site, or we've got all these orders, show me something financially. Show me something that whether it's your gross margin or the number of hours you worked, charge-out rates, or utilization, or whatever that may be. What makes your business tick and what drives it, and really then focus on that and drive it. And that could be as little as 2 or 3 things, maybe a maximum of 5 or 6, and focus on them and drive them. And make sure the team below you and the team below that understand all of that as well. And it's transformational. We've had clients over the last few years that have gone from less than $1 million to north of 5 million in 2 years, 3 years. With the business sold for 8 figures, having probably been prepared to take maybe £1 million before, but then got it sold for 10 plus. So these things do make a difference, and it's about doing these right things and surrounding yourself with the right people.
That is beautiful. What do you think, our friend Jeff, he has had a focus on AI and leveraging it to free up time and free up so much of what we're able to do. And I was always stuck in the weeds until I kind of leveraged it and started using it. And I stay in my genius zone more because of that. How do you use AI in teaching, and how do you use it personally to give you the freedoms that you have right now?
I don't want people to fall off their seats if they're listening to this, but I don't use it. I don't use it, don't embrace it. I don't properly understand it. I think there's a place for it. I posted a couple of times recently. I think AI makes people lazy. Don't get me wrong, there are some fantastic things it can do. It can automate so many different things. There is definitely a place for it. But I think what you'll find on LinkedIn in particular, we've got all these experts now who are taking something from LinkedIn, or they're copying a post someone's done and they're changing it through LinkedIn and trying to put themselves forward as gurus or really knowing what they're talking about. And there is a ton of dangerous information out there that people can just look at and then start applying in their business. So you really have to be very careful. AI is not 100% perfect, but people like
my granddaughter, she's 9 and she spent the night, and so she has a little, I'll get back. She has a little, and here's my other granddaughter here. So yeah, she wrote a sign and says, you need to be on a podcast, okay? And I keep it on my desk. But yeah, they're spending the night. So I'll let them hang out for a little bit, and then we'll get back to our show.
It's one of the few things I miss by being in Crete. I miss my daughters, I miss my grandchildren, and I miss the local Chinese takeaway. Other than that, Pete, I don't miss anything.
Yeah, I think critical thinking is so important, and AI, if you're not using it properly, takes that away. We always got to be thinking, and so many people are using it as a replacement for their thinking. So I appreciate it.
I think that's when it's dangerous. I know a lot of people who are really embracing it. Are doing some amazing things with it, including Jeff, and I've got clients who are using it. I've got a couple of clients developing things and automate a lot of things and do the thinking. But for me, we talk about replacing, whether it's going to replace lawyers and accountants or whatever. Yes, there's probably a small part of that. It will. I'm certainly not concerned about being replaced by AI. It doesn't bother me at all. But yes, you've got to be aware of it, but just be cautiously aware. What was the old phrase? Like, trust but verify.
Yes.
I'm a great believer in that.
Yeah, I totally agree. What do you think when you went from debt, stress to right today? Like, how peaceful is your sleep? And I want you to like give me one habit that you have kind of embraced in
Yeah.
your life right now that you could share with our community.
I'll be perfectly honest, Pete. Even though I had that amount of debt, I had a couple of houses, I had some assets, I had a lot of unquoted shares as well, but I couldn't turn those things into cash. Well, I suppose I could have turned houses into cash, but I wasn't stressed. Genuinely, I was not
Really?
stressed because I knew how to get out of it. I knew I had my plan, and I knew what to do. And what to give you an idea of what I do on a daily basis, I'll wake in the morning. I will do my morning prayers. I'm Greek Orthodox, so I do that in the morning. I feed our two babies, our two ragdoll cats who came from Glasgow here, and then I go downstairs to my gym. I've got a room that's at 75 square meters. I've got multi-gym, free weights, spinning bikes, sauna, a couple of TVs, and I'll spend. I'll do 30 minutes of stretching every day, but Pilates, yoga type stuff, stretching. And then I'll do 4 of those days, 4 or 5 days, I will do strength training, so weights, upper body, lower body. And I'll then go and have breakfast, sit, have a coffee, go for breakfast, either here or sit on the beach, have breakfast. And then I'll typically go for a walk along the beach. And I'll go for a walk along the beach for half an hour, and I'm doing a huge amount of walking. It's just so peaceful. And then basically my meetings will start. If I've got meetings in those days, I don't have any meetings earlier than Greek time, so 11 o'clock. So it allows me to do all those things every day. And that's transformational for the way I was living, because I didn't walk a lot. I did work out. I didn't walk a lot, but it's just that peace and then taking some time to think. I'm learning Greek. I've been learning Greek for the last couple of years, but I'm now implementing it. I'm now speaking to people. So the people I meet in the same shops and taverns and bars and places, I'm saying, look, don't speak to me in English, speak to me in Greek. And see if I get something wrong, please tell me, please correct me. So that's helping. So I feel as if I'm part of, we're part of the community. A lot of people know us now. I'm the big Scottish guy that's trying to speak Greek and feeds all the stray cats. That's how I'm known, which is great. And so my Greek name is Alexandros, so I'm known as Alexandros. I don't talk to people about what I do. No one knows about my business, my work. It's I'm just this guy, Maria's husband, because I don't want to talk about work.
Yeah.
I love doing what I'm doing. I am passionate about the groups and the results people get, so I love that. But I'm not building a business, Peter. I'm going the other way. I'm just doing what I like doing, slowing down, and the pace is it's just fantastic. I just love it, Pete. It's beyond. If I go back to, so we moved on the 24th of May in 2025. And before that, if I think about my thoughts, my hopes, my expectations, the thing, and the only fear I had was driving. So if I think about all of them and where we are now, or even after just a few weeks, it was miles ahead of any of them. Absolutely miles ahead. Day 2, I jumped in the car, I drove for 5 minutes. Well, okay, this is okay, because it was other side of the road for us. And then the next day I drove down to the second village and I got some breakfast. And since then I've been driving about. I don't think I could drive in the UK anymore, even if I went back. So it's just completely different. And what I'm saying to business owners is, think about where you want to go. Don't just try to get through to Friday every week. Have that plan. Everybody in the Freedom Circle has a plan in terms of where they're going. Some have a short-term plan. It's maybe 2-3 years. Some have got 5 years. Some want to buy a property in Spain or the Canary Islands or the north of Scotland, whatever that may be, or they want to sell their business for X. And that's what we're working towards. We're working towards that freedom. Freedom in terms of time, freedom in terms of stress, and freedom in terms of money. That's it. And if you can have those 3 freedoms, because those are the 3 freedoms I now have. I have no cash issues, all my debts are gone, I have money in the bank, investments, nice property. Time, I have an abundance of time to do what I want to do, and I have 0 stress. And
Ooh,
what's
it's beautiful. I can see you walking on the beach, and that is a beautiful thing. There's something magical about that process. And I
yeah,
know because
yeah.
going on vacation, doing those kind of things, but doing it every day, how does it help your thinking? Because you're working with business owners, you have that clear thinking. You can just, somebody says something on a call and then you're processing it while the waves are crashing on the beach.
Yeah.
How has that helped you in really that critical thinking time that's so important?
In all honesty, Pete, I probably do a lot less thinking than I used to, given how I work now. But I think what I find is that most of the things come automatically to me now. And I'm not trying to say, I'm this smart guy and all, because I don't. I have a very limited knowledge, but I'm very good at applying and I'm very good at helping people and show that in the business. What happens in Know Your Numbers or Freedom Circle groups is that in the first meeting, okay, everybody's nervous, even though they've had a call with me, they've had an interview with me, so they've got to get through that to get approved. So it's an invitation only. Okay, they're always worried because they're thinking, I don't know any of this stuff. Everybody else knows more than me, and every single one of them looks at the other people in the group and thinks they're much further ahead than me. Their business is turning over more. They must know everything. They manage cash. I bet they don't have sleepless nights. And you know what? See, within that, the first session, we have an introduction and we'll spend 15, 20 minutes on that. So everyone will talk about it. And they'll start sharing a couple of things, right? And before you know it, everyone's saying, yeah, I have that as well. Yeah, I worry about that. Yeah, my team doesn't. So they are the same problems for most, I would say for 80% of businesses.
Mm.
There is not one person has given me a problem, an issue, or something to deal with I've never come across before. And it's funny, and it's the old usual. It's the stress. It's one of the things. It's being alone, having to do everything themselves. No one cares as much as me. I've got to do everything. I've got no time. It's then the impact it has on family. So family relationships, because of the stress with time, money, and just being completely focused on the business here. That you might be out for dinner with your partner, or you might be swimming or dancing with the kids. You're present physically, you're not present mentally because you're thinking about how to pay the wages, how to do that. So by taking all that stuff away, and working on all of that, you can then have that life of freedom, time, and stress, because all business owners have the same worries and the same insecurities. 80% are virtually the same, guaranteed. And there's very few people out there know it all. And there's very few people who've got assist. It's like the swan in the water, right? Very graceful, right? But underneath, the legs are going 100 miles an hour. And that's what most business owners are like. And I'm trying to show them there is a better way. It doesn't need to be painful. It doesn't need to be stressful. Bring things, keep it simple. Everything we do in Know Your Numbers in the Freedom Circle is simple. I'm just a simple guy from a small place called Wishaw in Scotland, genuinely. And that's how I feel. That's how I've always felt.
Yeah, when I started simplifying my life, it got better. I was always the person that I'd have that task list, 20 things, and I was addicted to the dopamine hit of checking a few things off. And I would get to the end of the day and I go, oh, and I would just I wouldn't have that fulfillment. But I wanted to ask you a question because you said it earlier about connection and meaningful relationships. When you're out and you're talking with people, you're not talking about business, you're getting to know them. How has that helped because we are born to connect, we're born to create. I like that what you just shared. Like, you're not sitting there spitting out what you do, how you do it. That's not your identity, is getting to know people. So what has that done for you personally, to have that kind of thought process when you're out connecting with people?
I think if I look at it from a business perspective, I think of the people who I've worked with one-to-one or have come through some of the groups, I become close friends with a lot of them, because with all of my clients, I've typically got a shareholding in the business. I've got an equity stake. That's part of my arrangement. We're sharing the success going forward, which then helps you be closer as well. But owner managed businesses, they are, you don't have a business and you don't have a personal life and a family life. It's all part of the same thing. And you've got to realize You can't just keep compartmentalizing it, because they're all linked. And if you can have a happy business owner, they'll have a happier life, happy family relationships, and just better relationships in general. And for me, I've made a few really nice friends over here, because it's just about talking, and it's just about being nice. I keep saying I post this regularly on LinkedIn. There is so much hate. And that's back to what I was saying about living in Glasgow before. So much hate, so much anger, so much, the haves and the have-nots. And if someone's got something, there's people jealous of it, or they're angry about it. I think if people just focused on themselves more, okay, and rather than what your next door neighbour's got or what someone else has got, and just be nice, do the right thing, okay. If you've got nothing nice to say, I was taught this many years ago, say nothing, okay. You don't have to agree with everyone, you don't have to like with everyone, but you don't have to hate, you don't have to compare. And what you'll find on social media, particularly places like LinkedIn, the people who are criticising are the ones sitting on the sidelines doing nothing typically, and they're the ones who've never had the energy or the drive to go and do something. And again, as I keep saying to people, if you wouldn't take advice from them, don't take criticism from them. They're irrelevant. Don't let them into your head. They mean nothing. You focus on you and where you want to go. And I think if more people did that and just treat people the right way, life would be so much better, so much happier.
Yeah, that's such good advice. What do you think? Like, I never understood this, because I grew up not liking reading, and I wasn't a good reader. I was always in the remedial slow reading because of dyslexia.
Yeah.
But then I kind of reframed it and started leaning into what I could get out of a book. And I use AI for that. I'll do a summary, I'll listen to it audio real fast, but then I read an actual book. And it has been proven to rewire your brain by reading. So we have the digital stuff out there, Kindles and all that, and we have real books. Do you find yourself to be a better reader, or do you use reading in a way that you could share with us, just what your insights are to something like that?
I've never been a big reader. I've written 3 books now. Okay, and that was Jeff who actually encouraged me to write that first book, and then another 2 came out, and we've got another 2 coming out in the next few months as well. And it's never been my plan. So I've never been a big reader. I'm not a huge fan of reading, and I find that given I'm trying to learn Greek, a lot of my spare time is listening to Greek audio, doing Greek lessons, and even when I'm watching TV now, I watch programs in English language, but I'll have Greek subtitles underneath it, and it's helping me. Now the problem is, I drive Maria nuts some nights when we're watching TV, because I start reading the stuff below, or I'll pause it all the time and say, because I'm trying to soak that in.
Yeah.
I've probably got about. There must be at least 50 books on Audible that I haven't started, Pete, and I've probably got about another 30 that I've listened to, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes of. It's dreadful. So I probably should read a bit more, but my real focus is I want to be fluent in Greece, fluent in Greek this time next year. Now I can get by. I can go out and about, say how are people, and can I have this, can I have that, order food. Thanks very much. That was nice. So so the first 4, 5, 6 sentences are okay. Then it gets a wee bit challenging. So they'll maybe speak to me. I'll understand it, and I'll maybe respond in English because I don't quite know the Greek. But I'm getting there. So that's where my brain power is focused on. And I can read Greek. I can read Greek as well. So
I think that when I don't speak. I barely got out of English class, so I mean, but here's what I would go, and when I know a little bit, tiny bit of Spanish, enough to have a initial conversation. But what I found is when I'm talking, just the initial is the kind of respect that you have for somebody to speak their language. I think there's a deeper connection when you're saying, speak to me in your language, not my language, and then you leaning into that kind of conversation.
You're completely right, and it's made a huge difference over here. There's people I know over here who are from the UK. They've been here 5 years. Someone's been here 17 years. Someone 20 years. Now, I don't spend a lot of time with them because I don't want to associate with people from the UK. Anyway, I don't mean to be rude. They barely speak a word of Greek. They can say good morning and thank you. But they don't even say it properly. And I'm not trying to be critical. They just don't embrace it. So
Yes.
I think the fact that I am, because I genuinely want to. I don't need to. I could live here the rest of my life and never speak a word of Greek, and I will get by absolutely fine because most Greeks do speak a bit of English. But that is it's that connection. It's showing that you care. It takes away that there's a real British arrogance. It's always been, whatever country you go to, well, we just assume you speak English, and that's why, as you know, I do numbers, not words. So I've found Greek challenging, and I'll link that in with people who start doing know your numbers, because Greek, it is a new alphabet. It's a different alphabet. There's 24 letters in the Greek alphabet. And there's a number of them that are different from English. There's also some that look the same, but they sound differently. There's also combinations that sound, differently. And there's no B, there's no D, there's no J. So things like that are like, wow. And I talk to people about that when they join Know Your Numbers. I say, okay, it's a different language to you. I'm learning Greek, right? And I make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. One of my favourite mistakes was this was back at the start. It was actually before we'd moved here, just before we moved. It was in March time when we were out buying a house, and we were having a really nice dinner in a Greek tavern. It's fantastic, traditional Greek tavern, and I thought, I'm going to show off here. I'm going to tell the waiter that was really delicious. Okay, so right, I'm ready to go. So the waiter, male waiter, big tall guy, Greek, classic Greek guy. And I said to him what I thought was, that was very delicious. And he started laughing. Maria started laughing. A couple of other serving staff started laughing as well. I actually told him that he was delicious. Things like that don't bother me because I make mistakes. It's like not knowing your numbers as a business. You're going to make mistakes.
Yes.
And you just push through it. We were in the same place a couple of days later, and I got it right that time. But then I told him it was still delicious. So,
that is such a good lesson of we're gonna make mistakes, and when we try to not make mistakes, we can't learn.
Exactly.
And you can't put yourself out there to gain that knowledge. So you got to just be yourself and do the best you can, and then learn along the way.
The whole point about growth, right? You can't grow without being uncomfortable. It's like in the gym. You've got to make your muscles uncomfortable for them to grow. You break it down, then they'll grow again. And it's the same. You've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Otherwise, you just stay in this little safe zone because of fear. And that's where a lot of business owners live, because they're scared to put their hand up and say, "I've been doing this for a long time. I don't understand it." We had someone in the third or the fourth group of Know Your Numbers, and he messaged me right after it. It used to be a 2-hour session, so 9:05, I got this message from him. Thanks very much for letting me into the group. I've learned more in the last 2 hours than I have in the previous 35 years.
Wow.
He was 50, I think it was 57. He wanted to do a big push in the group, and he just said, "It's just blown my mind. I just didn't know any of this stuff." So it's never too late to learn. As I keep saying to people, it's like the old Chinese proverb, best time to plant a tree 20 years ago. The best time to know your numbers was the day before you set up in business. The second best time is today.
That's so good.
You are never too old to learn, and just by knowing a few things, you can make massive change in your business. Really.
Yeah, that is so great. I could talk to you all day long, but I want to be respectful of your time. So tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you? And then I have one final question for you.
Best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Now, I'm on LinkedIn every Monday to Friday. I post regularly. Well, post every day, Monday to Friday. Occasionally weekends as well. Weekends a bit more personal. You'll see more things on the beach. Every Friday I do a video between sort of 3 minutes and 5 minutes about, and it's called the Freedom Friday video. So you'll get some tips about how to create freedom. you'll probably see me in front of a swimming pool or with the mountains at the side or down at the sea.
Yes.
But that's to encourage people to do that. That's the best
Yes.
place. I mean, or go on to knowyournumbers.biz if you want to find out more about Know Your Numbers.
Awesome. That is so good. So, Craig, what would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
I'm assuming mainly business owners listening to this. Okay, so I created 2 rules for any business owner a number of years ago because I thought Warren Buffett has got his 2 rules for investing. He's quite a clever guy. He's made some money. He's got a lot more money than me. So I thought if it's good enough for his clients, I'm going to create 2 rules. So I want all business owners to really learn these 2 rules and focus on them. Rule number 1 is focus on cash. Okay, cash is different from profit. Focus on cash. You can't pay your employees or your suppliers with profit. You pay them with cash. So rule 1, focus on cash. Rule number 2, don't forget rule 1.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And that for me is to show the importance of cash.
Yes.
And if I can give you something else very, very quickly. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Any business owner, I want you to answer 3 questions. I want you to ask 3 questions every day, and someone in your business has to answer them, whether it's you, your admin person, your accountant, finance, whatever. Question number 1 is how much cash do we have? Okay, so reconcile your bank statement. What came in, mark it off against people's your money, what went out. So you know exactly where you are. Question number 2 is who's got our cash. So the people who owe you cash, I want you to be asking that question and understanding that every day because it's your cash. You've done the work, provide the service. You need to be chasing that. Credit control should be done every day. And question 3, how do we get more cash? And that's where the key performance indicators come in. That's where we look at, maybe it's a gross margin or a utilization, or it might be debtor days, these things. And then you focus on that. So you monitor it, you manage it, and you drive it. Do those things in your business every day. You will transform your business from a cash perspective.
That is so beautiful. Thanks for keeping it so simple. It is simple, and you have really communicated and shared with our community how simple it can be because you're living that simple life that really we want. And so thanks so much. I appreciate your time, Craig. Thank you very much. And for those that are listening, share this with people want more freedom, want to work on the cash flow, the numbers. The whole business of life is getting life from your business. And thank you so much for sharing with our viewers some valuable information.
Been my pleasure, Pete. As we say in Crete, Efaristo Poli.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate you very much.